It has been days since Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula announced the new restrictions limiting travel during the 21-day lockdown. Foreign tourists have been caught up in the grounding of aeroplanes. Some have taken to social media to detail their attempts to return home and the type of assistance they're getting from their governments. Matthew McCarthy is from Ireland but works and lives in Dubai. He had been scheduled to leave South Africa before the lockdown was announced, but had been halted by a similar lockdown in place in the United Emirates.
We were due to fly back to the UAE on the 20th of March, but unfortunately the UAE imposed a lockdown on the 19th, and there was nobody allowed in or out, including residents, which really impacted us, but we can understand where they're coming from. They wanted to contain the virus.
For the time being, McCarthy is staying with his girlfriend and her family in KwaZulu-Natal. McCarthy says they're working remotely.
I work as a data analyst, a data scientist, so thankfully I have been able to work remotely in my field of work. My partner also works online e-learning at the minute. She's a teacher, so she's having to get up to speed with new technologies to e-learn.
Stephen Burke from England is not so lucky. Burke is currently renting out his accommodation, and unlike McCarthy, he and his wife work in the local government and can't function remotely.
Earlier this week, we found out that we needed to get back home after our government announced that all British citizens need to return home. So we tried to book emergency flights, and we got a flight for tomorrow. But obviously, since the government lockdown and quarantine of international tourists, we can't return home.
Burke says they are also anxious and uncertain about the state of affairs in their home country.
Earlier on this morning, I spoke to somebody, and she basically told me that we weren't covered for being quarantined during our stay, which was going to mean that we were going to have to kind of find the money through our, not paying our mortgage, and we don't know the situation back home, whether we'll have jobs to go back to.
Despite the circumstances, both McCarthy and Burke say they're impressed with the South African government's response to the crisis.
I think it's a great measure, to be honest. I think your government's done quite well. It may seem harsh and not very nice for everyone to be cocooned in their homes, but I think it's for the greater good of South Africa. I know a mass outbreak of the case would be detrimental to the South African economy and healthcare system, so it's a drastic measure, but it seems very important.
The South African lockdown is expected to end on the 16th of April. At this stage, it's not clear when tourists who are trapped here will be allowed to leave. Nosipho Mncube for SABC News.